Trump-Musk alliance to undermine Zelensky's government through a stratagem. A geopolitical perspective. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, now in its fourth year as of 2025, remains a focal point of global attention. Amid this backdrop, new developments involving the relationship between U.S. President Donald Trump, tech billionaire Elon Musk, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have sparked speculation about a complex geopolitical strategy. A hypothesis posited by the YouTube channel The Tilted World suggests that Trump and Musk may be collaborating in a stratagem of feigned conflict to pressure Zelensky's government into conceding to peace negotiations with Russia. Is this a meticulously calculated strategy, or merely conjecture amid escalating political tensions? This commentary delves into the intricacies of this hypothesis, situating it within the broader geopolitical context. The meeting between Trump and Zelensky at the White House on February 28, 2025, marked a turning point in U.S.-Ukraine relations, as public disagreements escalated into a heated confrontation. Concurrently, the public rift between Trump and Musk, once close allies, has raised questions about the true motives behind their actions. Are these conflicts a staged performance to achieve strategic objectives? Or are they the inevitable result of clashing interests among some of the world's most powerful figures? The White House meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on February 28, 2025, was anticipated to strengthen U.S.-Ukraine ties through a potential agreement on rare earth mineral extraction. Instead, it devolved into a contentious dispute, prompting the Ukrainian delegation to leave early without any agreement. According to sources, tensions flared when Vice President J.D. Vance criticized Zelensky for lacking gratitude for U.S. military aid, while Trump bluntly demanded that Zelensky leave the White House after the Ukrainian leader countered the accusations, emphasizing that the U.S. had yet to fully grasp the challenges Ukraine faces in its war with Russia. The root of this clash lies in differing strategic visions. Trump and his administration are pushing for a swift diplomatic resolution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, prioritizing improved relations with Moscow and access to Ukraine's natural resources. In contrast, Zelensky insists on clear security guarantees from the U.S. before entering any agreements, stressing that Ukraine cannot be sidelined in peace negotiations. These disagreements not only highlight strains in bilateral relations, but also signal a shift in U.S. foreign policy under Trump, with Washington prioritizing long-term economic and strategic interests over continued military support for Ukraine. The White House altercation was not an isolated event. In September 2024, Zelensky publicly criticized Trump, stating that he doesn't really know how to end the war, after Trump claimed he could resolve the conflict in a single day. These remarks intensified tensions between the two leaders, placing Zelensky in a precarious position as he faces a U.S. administration increasingly impatient with Ukraine's demands. Trump and Musk, from allies to adversaries, or a political charade? A key element fueling the stratagem of feigned conflict hypothesis is the public falling out between Trump and Elon Musk, who was a staunch ally during Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. Musk, the largest donor to the Republican Party and a senior advisor to Trump, played a pivotal role in securing Trump's return to the White House. However, in early June 2025, tensions erupted when Musk criticized Trump's spending and tax cut bill, calling it a disgraceful abomination for increasing the national debt. Trump retaliated by threatening to cancel all government contracts with Musk's companies, including Tesla, SpaceX, and Starlink, leading to a 14.3% drop in Tesla's stock price in a single day, wiping out approximately $150 billion in market value. According to the transcript from The Tilted World, some speculate that this public feud may be a staged act to provide Musk with a pretext to disconnect Starlink from Ukraine, thereby pressuring Zelensky's government. Starlink, which has been critical for maintaining battlefield communications for Ukrainian forces, is an irreplaceable strategic asset. Disrupting its service could significantly weaken Ukraine's military capabilities, potentially forcing Zelensky to accept peace terms dictated by Trump and Russia. However, this hypothesis warrants cautious scrutiny. The conflict between Trump and Musk extends beyond Ukraine, encompassing broader economic and political issues within the U.S. As co-head of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, Musk has championed aggressive federal spending cuts, which clash with Trump's expansive spending bill. Furthermore, Musk's public calls for Trump's impeachment and shocking allegations tying Trump to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein suggest genuine discord rather than a mere performance. These actions indicate that the rift may reflect real conflicts of interest and vision. Nevertheless, the possibility of covert coordination cannot be dismissed. Musk's resignation from his advisory role in late May 2025 and his stated focus on business ventures could be a strategic move to distance himself publicly from Trump, allowing Musk to take actions that pressure Ukraine without being directly tied to the White House. If the stratagem of feigned conflict hypothesis holds, it would represent a bold geopolitical maneuver, leveraging Musk's influence in technology and media to reshape the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The role of European allies and shifting Russian perceptions. As the U.S. appears to scale back military support for Ukraine, European allies face increasing pressure to fill the void. However, Europe's unity in supporting Ukraine is being tested by divergent national interests. Poland's newly elected president Karol Dworowski, who assumed office in June 2025, has openly opposed Ukraine's accession to the EU and NATO, insisting that historical disputes, particularly the 1940s Volyn massacre, must be resolved first. These statements have not only strained Poland-Ukraine relations, but also exposed divisions within the EU regarding approaches to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. In Germany, once a major buyer of Russian gas within the EU, relations with Moscow have deteriorated significantly. A Levada Institute survey indicates that 55% of Russians now view Germany as the most hostile nation, surpassing the US, which held this position for 2 decades. This shift largely stems from Germany's increased military support for Ukraine, including the provision of weapons and equipment, under the leadership of new Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Meanwhile, the U.S. under Trump is showing signs of warming relations with Russia, evidenced by phone calls between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the suspension of military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. This change in Russian perceptions reflects a new geopolitical reality. Moscow is capitalizing on divisions between the U.S. and its European allies to bolster its position. While European nations, particularly Germany and France, emphasize their role in securing Ukraine, Russia has intensified military and propaganda efforts to undermine Western unity. Florian Philippot, leader of France's Patriots Party, has accused French media of launching a propaganda campaign to prepare for direct conflict with Russia, raising fears of military escalation in Europe. Russia's economic resilience and strategic maneuvers. Amid the focus on political and military developments, Russia's economy has demonstrated remarkable resilience in the face of Western sanctions. According to a Bank of America report, the Russian ruble has appreciated by over 40% in 2025, making it the world's best-performing currency. This recovery is primarily driven by stringent capital controls and tight monetary policies by the Central Bank of Russia, which has maintained interest rates at 20% to curb inflation. Additionally, the weakening U.S. dollar and reduced domestic demand for foreign currency have bolstered the ruble's value. The ruble's resurgence underscores the limitations of Western sanctions. While international ports refuse to accept sanctioned Russian oil tankers, Moscow has sustained energy exports through alternative channels, while intensifying military strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure to weaken Kiev's resistance. These actions highlight Russia's ability to leverage both economic and military strength to maintain its position in the conflict. Ukraine's future and Zelensky's precarious position. Facing mounting pressure from both the US and Russia, President Zelensky finds himself in a dilemma. Following the White House confrontation, Zelensky softened his stance, expressing willingness to work under Trump's strong leadership to achieve lasting peace. He proposed preliminary steps such as prisoner exchanges and a ceasefire at sea and in the air, contingent on reciprocal actions from Russia. However, these efforts appear insufficient to mend ties with the Trump administration, particularly as the US has suspended military aid and access to satellite imagery for Ukraine. Zelensky's growing isolation on the international stage, coupled with waning support from European allies and the US, raises questions about his and his government's future. Some analysts suggest that Trump may be pushing for elections in Ukraine to replace Zelensky, citing the expiration of his term in 2024 without new elections due to the ongoing war. However, experts like Orysia Lutsevich from Chatham House argue that replacing Zelensky could backfire, given his strong domestic support among Ukrainians. The hypothesis of a Trump-Musk alliance employing a stratagem of feigned conflict to pressure Zelensky's government, while intriguing, remains unproven. The public discord between Trump and Musk may stem from genuine conflicts of interest, but the possibility of a calculated strategy to achieve broader geopolitical goals cannot be ruled out. As US-Ukraine relations reach a historic low and Russia exploits Western divisions to strengthen its position, Ukraine faces the risk of losing critical support from its allies. Regardless of the outcome, the Russia-Ukraine conflict is entering a new phase, shifting from artillery battles to a dirtier war focused on sabotage and infrastructure attacks. In this intricate geopolitical game, Zelensky and Ukraine must adapt to survive, while Trump and Musk, whether allies or adversaries, will continue to shape the global landscape with bold and controversial moves.